Russia just handed Iran the tactical playbook that turned Ukrainian skies into a killing ground. Not diplomatic assistance, not financial support, not some vague expression of political solidarity. Surprised, specific, operational drone warfare doctrine, field-tested over 3 years of nightly bombardment against one of the most heavily defended airspaces in modern history, and it is now deployed against American forces in the Gulf. This is confirmed by a Western intelligence official who spoke to CNN on March 11, 2026. Size. This is the moment the conflict in the Gulf stopped being a bilateral confrontation and became something else entirely. Because the country now advising Iran on how to kill Americans built that knowledge by killing Ukrainians. And every lesson it learned, it is now passing on. Pay attention to what is actually being transferred here. Russia has spent 3 years launching Shahid drones against Ukraine. In a single night, Ukraine has faced over 1,000 of these systems in the air simultaneously. Russian operators have learned, through thousands of real combat sorties, exactly how to sequence those launches, exactly when to change course, exactly how to split formations so that air defenses exhaust their expensive interceptors chasing decoys while the real strike packages slip through the gap. That knowledge, accumulated through years of burning Ukrainian cities, is now flowing directly into Iranian command centers targeting American forces in the Persian Gulf. That is not a development. That is a cascade. Let's be precise about what the Shahid drone is and why the transfer of Russian tactics changes everything. The Shahid 136 was designed by Iran and is now mass-produced by Russia under the designation Garand 2. It flies at subsonic speed, carries a fragmentation warhead, and costs approximately $30,000 per unit. Against it, a standard American Patriot interceptor runs anywhere from $1 million to $3 million per missile. The math is already catastrophic before you factor in volume, before you factor in swarm tactics, before you factor in 3 years of Russian improvements. But here is what most people are missing. Russia has modified its Garand 2 variant with the Comedium jam-resistant navigation system. Drone debris recovered in the United Arab Emirates and analyzed by the Center for Strategic and International Studies confirms that serial markings on at least one recovered system trace directly to the Kupol manufacturing plant in Izhevsk, Russia, not an Iranian production facility. This means Iran is not merely receiving tactical advice from Moscow. Iran is receiving Russian-manufactured drones equipped with Russian upgrades designed specifically to defeat American electronic jamming and GPS disruption. The evasion tactic Russia is teaching Iran is not complicated. It is ruthless. Multiple drones launch in coordinated formation. Mid-flight, they diverge. Some change course, some drop altitude, some accelerate. Defenders are forced to engage multiple targets simultaneously across multiple vectors. The air defense radar is tracking 20 objects moving in 20 directions. The fire control system must prioritize. Some get through, and the ones that get through are the ones that were always meant to. Interceptor stockpiles deplete in hours. Then the main strike package arrives into an exhausted, degraded defense network. Ukraine has faced this pattern every single night for 3 years. Gulf air defenses are confronting it now, without the years of hard-won experience that Kiev's operators carry. The difference is that Ukraine learned this doctrine by surviving it. The Gulf is learning it in real time, under fire, with Russian trainers on the other end of an encrypted channel refining the playbook after each wave. The numbers confirm what the tactics imply. The United Arab Emirates alone absorbed 1,422 drones and 246 missiles between March 1st and March 8th. That is 1,668 recorded strikes against a single country in 8 days. That figure represents 55% of all recorded strikes in the entire Gulf region during that period. Iran's drone campaign has targeted not just military installations, but energy infrastructure and economic centers. A deliberate strategy designed to force allied nations to spend million-dollar interceptors defending billion-dollar oil facilities from $30,000 weapons. The economics of that exchange are not sustainable, and the campaign is not slowing. It is evolving. Here is what the institution responsible for fighting this war is saying publicly. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth told reporters that Russia and China are not really a factor. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff On the very same day CNN confirmed Russian tactical advising was underway, announced the United States was taking Russia at their word that it was not sharing intelligence with Iran. The Kremlin, as always, denies everything. Let me give you the honest answer on what that means. Intelligence officials inside the U.S. government confirmed to CNN that Russia began sharing overhead satellite imagery of American warships and aircraft with Iran starting March 6th. The precise locations of U.S. military assets, including the USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group operating in the Strait of Hormuz. That intelligence was corroborated by the Washington Post, citing 3 separate officials who characterized Russia's effort as a pretty comprehensive operation. The Institute for the Study of War assessed the intelligence sharing as a direct strategic challenge to American military dominance in the region. And yet the public posture from the United States government remains not really a factor. This is the silent signal. When an institution stops naming a threat, it is almost never because the threat has disappeared. It is because naming it requires a response the institution is not prepared to give. But the tactical advising is not even the most alarming element. Because Russia's contribution to this conflict is now operating across 3 separate dimensions simultaneously, and each one feeds the next. First, satellite targeting intelligence. Russia has provided Iran the real-time locations of American warships and aircraft using imagery from Moscow's own overhead satellite constellation, a capability Iran's military simply cannot generate independently. It is not a coincidence that this intelligence sharing preceded an Iranian drone strike on a makeshift facility housing U.S. troops in Kuwait that killed 6 American service members. Second, naval interdiction. Iran is now deploying mines in the Strait of Hormuz alongside sea drones and modified Dow fishing boats used as low-cost attack platforms against the U.S. Carrier Strike Group. Western intelligence described this layered maritime threat as deeply concerning. The U.S. Navy has destroyed 16 Iranian mine layers near the strait, but the mines already placed remain. Approximately 20% of the world's traded oil transits that 33-kilometer choke point daily. It is now a contested war zone. Third, the drone production pipeline itself. The confirmed presence of Russian-manufactured Garin, 2 systems in UAE debris means Iran's drone supply is no longer limited to its own damaged production lines. U.S. and Israeli strikes have degraded Iranian ballistic missile infrastructure significantly. CENTCOM Admiral Brad Cooper confirmed on March 5th that ballistic missile attacks from Iran have declined by roughly 90% since the campaign began. But the drone campaign has not declined. It has intensified because Russia is not subject to American airstrikes. Russia's Kupol plan in Izhevsk is still operational. And if this production pipeline holds, Iran can sustain drone saturation operations indefinitely while its missile forces are rebuilt. Ukraine's President Zelensky said it without qualification on March 11th. Russia is supporting Iran with drones, will support them with missiles, and is already helping with air defense. He would know. His country has been on the receiving end of this machine for 3 years. Let me give you the honest answer about what this means strategically. Russia entered this conflict as an observer with an incentive. Iran is Moscow's longtime partner. The United States is fighting a war that ties down American military resources, exhausts American interceptor stockpiles, and consumes the diplomatic bandwidth that would otherwise focus Western attention on Ukraine. For Vladimir Putin, a prolonged Gulf War is not a problem to be managed. It is an opportunity to be exploited. Every Patriot missile fired at a $30,000 Shahid in the Gulf is a Patriot missile not available for Ukraine's air defense. Every carrier strike group committed to the Persian Gulf is a carrier not positioned to deter Chinese aggression in the Pacific. Putin understands the geometry of this moment better than anyone. He spoke to Trump on Monday, March 9th, in the first call between the 2 leaders since December. Trump has already indicated he may soften oil sanctions on Russia to help cool energy prices. The Kremlin is extracting concessions from every dimension of this crisis simultaneously. Here is the binary. Either the United States confronts Russia's direct role in this conflict, which means escalating pressure on Moscow at the precise moment Washington is trying to negotiate a ceasefire over Ukraine, or it does not confront it, which means allowing Russia to field test its drone doctrine against American forces in real time at 0 cost to Moscow. There is no version of this situation that is clean. The scenario military planners fear most is the one where this knowledge transfer accelerates. Iran's drone campaign evolves beyond what current Gulf interceptor stockpiles can absorb, and the conflict expands before any diplomatic resolution becomes achievable. Ukraine offered its drone interception expertise to the United States 7 months before the Gulf War began. The offer was declined by the Trump administration. Officials reversed that decision only after Iranian drone attack volumes exceeded initial projections. Ukraine runs a reported 90% interception rate against the exact Shahed systems, now targeting American forces. Its homegrown interceptor drones cost approximately $5,000 per unit, against the Shahed that costs $30,000 to manufacture and fly. That ratio is the arithmetic of this war. The cheap destroying the expensive. Volume overwhelming quality. And right now, the United States is on the wrong side of that equation. Here is what is confirmed as of March 11, 2026. Russia is providing Iran-specific drone tactical doctrine drawn directly from the Ukraine battlefield. Russia began sharing satellite imagery revealing U.S. military asset locations no later than March 6th. A Russian-manufactured Garin, 2 equipped with comedium jam-resistant navigation, was recovered in UAE wreckage. Iran launched 1,668 recorded strikes against the UAE alone in the first 8 days of the campaign. 6 U.S. service members were killed by an Iranian drone strike in Kuwait. The United States Navy destroyed 16 Iranian mine layers near the Strait of Hormuz. Ukraine has a 90% interception rate against these exact systems and offered that capability to Washington months before the first drone crossed into Gulf airspace. The United States government's public position is that Russia is not really a factor. The intelligence community's position is that Russia's support is pretty comprehensive. One of those positions reflects the battlefield. The other reflects the press briefing. Russia has taken 3 years of drone warfare knowledge, 3 years of learning exactly how to defeat American-supplied air defenses, and transferred that expertise to a state currently at war with the United States military. The tactical upgrade has landed. The mines are in the water, the drones are in the air, and nobody in a position of power has yet explained what comes next.